What's up, my know-it-alls? It is time for the new episode of Halo Review, Episode 3, Emergence. John meets his new partner, and he discovers secrets inside his own memory. Kwan wants to return to Madrigal to continue her people's fight for independence, but Soren has other plans for her. Dr. Keyes initiates her plan to retrieve the Madrigal object, with deadly consequences. Man, oh man, this episode was awesome. Lot of exciting storytelling going on. Again, I feel like they're keeping a really strong sense of story with this entire thing. I don't have any of the biases that other people may have because of their intimate knowledge of the games, other than, so since episode one I started out raw. The most I had ever seen was those combined cinematic movies you put on YouTube. Also, I saw the Halo short film that had come out, Forward Unto Reach, I believe, or Forward Unto Dawn, I believe. Man, so in that time, I've begun doing a little more research, a lot more watching some things, listening to some other people who are familiar with the game. And I tell you what, I'm really excited for the storytelling that they're doing, especially because this is the episode where we get Cortana. Man, I know very little about the game and about it in the game. It may turn out that it was the same exact scenario in the games. I don't know. But I know that as far as I remember, Cortana was more of an AI that was built. However, so in the show, and again, I could be wrong. There may be lore and myth in the Halo games that I'm unaware of, so forgive me about that. So when you take it at its face value, Cortana being introduced, so in the game, my understanding is she was strictly an AI, meaning an actual programmed thing, a very advanced one, but at the same time programmed for sure. So now in this one, they have the Flash clone of Halsey, and somehow the brain substrate, the synaptic engrams, whatever whatnot, it required, that stuff is required in order to make the Cortana AI able to be embedded into a Spartan's mind. Literally, not psyche, like they actually do some, whatever. I'll get to it in a minute. But anyway, fascinating outlook on things. And then ultimately, I really like how they're portraying the character. So we originally got some stills of Cortana way before the season began, and people thought she looked unfinished, she looked awkward, and the truth is she was unfinished because that was the actress in essentially Cortana cosplay. Since then, they've done kind of a Battle Angel Alita type setup where they've purposely made the actress look CGI. I say that because there are aspects of Cortana that don't look like a CGI programmed character. So this is not a CGI character. It's a human character that they are now pushing the boundaries up. So like they widen her eyes a little bit, make her look a little more animated. She looks very much like a digital character. And so some people might be like, well, that's just bad CGI. How do I explain this? She looks like a digital character on purpose. Or rather, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's on purpose, but rather, I felt like the look was on purpose. And I'm okay with that. So it didn't feel like bad CGI. It felt like CGI that was purposely made to look this artificial. So, and I don't mean like the hologram bits and the technology, circuitry looking stuff that comes off of her. What I'm talking about is, in general, she reminded me of like one of the old Final Fantasy characters from the original Final Fantasy movie. That old, like, it was like Kiefer Sutherland and some other people who were in this movie. And it was like one of the first fully CGI movies, but everyone had that sort of dead, uncanny valley, lack of expression. She looks like one of those kind of characters in terms of the style and quality of her character. Anyway, sorry, I'm just really caught up in this thing because Cortana was arguably one of the most impressive parts of the episode. But let's actually get into the thing. Forgive me. So the episode starts with us getting a flashback. Specifically, we are on what looks like a trash planet. It's the planet Oban, which is a sort of a waste salvage colony, a garbage planet. Let's just call it what it is, a garbage planet. And you see this little girl, and this little girl is talking to this little boy who's reading a book. The book's familiar if you're paying attention. And ultimately, you get to see that the authorities in this place are pretty rough. It's sort of almost like a slave colony in terms of, hey, just keep moving and blah, blah, blah. And they're not afraid to kill anybody. So this little boy is reading this story to a little girl, and they have an intimate moment. And he's like, and you see this word? This word means that whenever someone reads this word, you're supposed to give them a kiss. And this kid's it's adorable. And then all of a sudden, boom, things happen. And you get to see the Covenant has showed up. But they aren't of a mind to attack anyone. They're searching for something, and they have this staff thing they're running around with, and as they're going around, they eventually get to this little girl, and the little girl, he's like, it's behind her, and blah blah blah, it's behind this creature. Oh no, what they're looking for is that little girl, is that creature. Okay, and this is where we find out this is the Blessed One. So we cut to her, and she's holding the book, the same book that we saw her reading prior, the same book in the past. She's reading the book, and she's in her outfit, and they're like, yeah, it's the outfit, blah, blah, blah. And she's ready. So she's full on ready. And then we cut to Master Chief. He's still in jail. And the Dr. Keyes, we cut to Dr. Keyes. She's looking at hollows of the artifact, and the Admiral's like, hey, listen, I want you to put a team together to inspect the artifact as diligently as humanly possible. Looks like the Admiral's making her play finally. The Admiral's not happy with how Halsey's been manipulating her, and ultimately she's going to make her play in order to sort of bring that whole situation under control, and it starts with having Dr. Keyes be on her side. So how do you get Dr. Keyes on your side? Come on, you absolutely got to give her what she wants. And I'm sorry, no daughter of Halsey would not be the first one to be like, oh yeah, I need to see this, I want to do this and that. She's so much like her mom. I think the writers are doing a great job kind of keeping that aspect of it. Anyway, and so ultimately you get to see Halsey with her woken up Flash clone. And the Flash clone literally has her memories from when they took. So the reason she's younger is because this is DNA that was taken from Halsey at that age. They're using de-aging technology. It doesn't look that great. She kind of looks, the younger Halsey looks way too clean-faced. It almost reminds me of Patrick Stewart and Ewan McGregor and Ian McKellen from X-Men. Maybe X-Men 2, maybe X-Men 2 or X-Men 3, I don't remember. But it was like the early days of de-aging where they just only smoothed over your wrinkles. They didn't actually de-age you. So it looks like literally the same actress's body, but they've just sort of, there are no lines anywhere. But the problem is it looks so unnatural. Now, you could always chalk up that it looks unnatural because she's a clone, and clones haven't had the pull of gravity, they haven't had to worry, the laugh, all these things that create the lines. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I tend to lean more toward that it was just bad de-aging technology. Anyway, so this Flash clone has all of her memories from that point in time. And she's asking her, she's like, how did the Spartan program go? And it's like, oh, so many people survived. And she goes, that means that many died? That's way more than I thought was going to happen. And so it's this weird conversation. And ultimately, she knows why she's alive. Because it's the only reasons why she would be alive, why she would exist. Which is they're going to use her mind to create Cortana. And it's a process that is both going to kill the Flash clone but also allow this super powerful AI to suddenly not only come to life but also be plugged into a Spartan at the mind level, like the cerebral level. So let me cut to John. He's in his outfit. I love there's two little Easter eggs if you're paying attention. The suits on either side of him, their early version Mjolnir armor, they look like Halo 1 and Halo maybe 2 or 3 when they revamped the suit, but it looks like earlier versions of the Halo outfit from the games as the games progressed. I loved that. I thought that was very cool. Cool little Easter egg for those of you paying attention. And again, I'm not super familiar with the material other than what I've researched, and so that's how I caught it, because I was like, hey, wait a minute, and then you a quick little Google search and you'll see it's literally looks like, so the one on the camera right, his left, is it's the first game look, and then the second one's when they first brought up the shoulder guys much higher, and it was this a little more beefy looking from like Halo 2 or 3. Anyways, I thought it was very cool. All right, and ultimately John's not down. He's like, I hate this idea. I don't want a babysitter. And she's like, it's not a babysitter. It's going to help enhance you, make you better, this and that. And then they start the process. And the Halsey clone is like, hey, is this going to hurt? And the doctor there is like, yeah, it's going to be excruciating. And so, because she knows what's coming. Oh, I just brought up the screenshot because that's how I remember. So you can't see it. There's a screen here and a screen here, and either one of them I'm usually looking at my screenshots on. They put this needle, and essentially they're going to lobotomize. They're going to lobotomize clone Halsey in order to get what they need from her frontal lobe or whatever, the substrate, mental substrate. I have my glasses off because I don't want to see it clearly. I have an aversion to two things. The first is spiders, and the second, eye trauma. Anytime eye trauma comes up, I'm like, oh, it just, I don't know how much you know this or not, but like it takes about as much effort to no effort. Like you literally could just go boop and just push too hard and pop your eye. Oh gosh. Anyway, eye trauma is one of my factor things. But yeah, so, and then ultimately then they begin the process with John, and you get to see this cool graphic of her brain being, I don't know if it's digitized or whatever, but ultimately pulled into this nanotechnology thing. And they pop the little incision into John's brain, and they literally push the cerebral stuff, and then her body is unceremoniously, the clone Halsey, picked up, moved, popped back down, and into an acid wash, and they disintegrate her. She's done, over with. And so yeah, sort of a short-lived, it's a cool thing. And the next thing you know, digital Cortana shows up. I like it. Does she look like Cortana from the games? It's a blue chick who's semi-transparent and hologrammy. But her outfit doesn't, because in the game you see like little pieces of like digital glitchy stuff all over her. You see some stuff like that, kind of. I think it's supposed to be like code or something along those lines. But essentially, she looks like a woman who's wearing a UNSC jumpsuit. And so, and she apparently is designed to take over. Like she's designed to be the brains, while the Spartans are the perfect body. Halsey tells her, "We're not doing that. We're doing this. You're going to be a co-pilot. You're going to help him." And so, and Cortana's having to kind of come to terms with that too. Cortana's a very intelligent AI. Cortana knows what she's programmed for, but at her core, she's also programmed to follow orders. So that's one of the things she's like, all right, fine, whatever, I'll help with this thing. And sure enough, so she begins the process of getting insinuated into John's life. So then we cut to Kwan, who is still at the asteroid field, and she's kind of walking through the area, and you get to see Vincius. Bern Gorman plays Vincius. He's the new leader of the Madrigal and the colony areas and whatnot, and he's sort of doing his propaganda thing, and she's just really, she's like, I gotta go home. I have to go home, and I have to make all of this right in order to survive. And then you see what's his face, Soren, who is picking up a shipment of chickens. And then out of nowhere, Kwan shows up, and she's like, I have to go home. I have to do this and that. We have to do blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I ain't got to do nothing. And I told John, we're going to keep you alive and happy. So we're going to keep you alive and happy. And so he's like, now go home. Go and get. He's like, we having chicken tonight. It's even in the far-flung future. It's true. We love chicken still. But who doesn't? Come on, get out of here. We cut back to the UNSC, and we get to see Master Chief looking at what looks like code. Maybe it's his DNA, whatever, all strung out and on the screen and whatnot. And he's talking to her, and she's like, "Would you want to meet him?" And he's like, "No," but then there she is, and he refuses to talk to her. He's just like, "Yeah, whatever." And so she's like, "I'm here to help," and blah blah blah, and she wants to be all nice and chipper. So then we cut to a spaceship we haven't seen yet. It's the Gladius, and it responds to you get to see a slipstream event as a Covenant ship comes out of the slipstream. And while the ship comes out of slipstream, they get ready and whatnot, and then you hear one lone voice. "It's our blessed one." Yeah, she's kind of being rough. Makee, I believe, is her name. Played by Charlie Murphy. And Makee is the blessed one she's the albino girl from the Aliens, the little girl we saw at the very beginning. Okay? And so she's like, "Everyone's dead. Please help me." She does this whole show of the whole thing. And then you see briefly, as the camera kind of goes around with her, there's this weird undulating tentacle thing at the edges. I don't know what's about to happen. So we cut back to Halsey and her experiments with the Master Chief, and he's now in front of the artifact, and he touches the artifact and begins to immediately get memories. He sees the dog, he sees this little kid, he knows to be him, and at some point or another, outside of the little control area they're at, Halsey's like, "Cortana, go ahead and let's get start our experiment." And Cortana says, "Would you like me to put him into stasis?" So Cortana's an autopilot who can just shut a brother off? That's like if you and I are just sitting here and all of a sudden I'm like, we're talking and I'm just like, "Oh yeah, everything's great." And then that's it. I just froze. She just puts him on autopilot. But the second she does that, it all stops. The artifact is no longer responsive. It's only responsive to him conscious. Something Halsey couldn't have possibly foreseen. Something Cortana's not happy about. And at the end of the day, they finally decide that they release him. She has Cortana make him weird, and then put him in stasis. At which point, the artifact comes back to life. They manage to stop and pull him away from the thing, and they're like, "We're gonna do some experimentation." And John's like, "What's something's going?" John's starting to realize something more is happening. So we then cut back to the ship again, and we see the little pod that the UNSC guys have sent out to get to go get Makee. And Makee is she gets on the thing obviously and comes back over. There's a whole platoon. Whoever the ship has ready is all ready and standing there at this airlock. The girl comes through, and he's like, "Welcome," this and that, and he has her sit down, and they search her, and she's fine. He stands up and he puts his hand out, and that's when the girl looks, and you see the tentacle things attack. It's straight up out of alien horror movie. Like, they're really channeling some really good things, and she casually walks through the chaos as all the little tentacle things erupt out of the bottom, erupt out of the ceiling, erupt out of the walls, and they're attacking all the little UNSC soldiers, and she's just casually walking through the bodies. And so she gets to the captain, and the captain ultimately is like, "You're not going to be able to stop this and that." And she puts her hand on his head, and then she has a little blade emitter thing out of her finger. It's the same as the big giant like energy blades that the guy used in the beginning to kill the guys to open up the vault in episode 1. And but she's got a little teeny one in her finger. That's awesome. How's that for those pointy nails, ladies? We then cut to John, who's walking around, and he's just walking around, and he sees a bunch of UNSC officers, or soldiers rather, who are playing a game. I guess it's some future version of like air hockey or something, but it's like a ball thing you throw the whatever. And he's just kind of, I don't know, he's looking at everything, and everything just feels off. And so he eventually goes back to where the Spartans are kept, their little bunker hangar thing. Everybody lines back up, and then out of nowhere, Cortana pops up, and he's like, "What are you doing? What, you need to go away. Hologram off. Turn off. Blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Turn me off?" Like, you got to remember, she's a fully sentient thing. She has her own will. She has her own capabilities, and she's got to pretend to follow his orders. So we have the beginning of a relationship here. I know in the games there's a will they won't they aspect to in terms of like just how emotionally because of the. So in the games, Master Chief actually hibernates for like decades at a time between uses of a Spartan, and so she is very much intimately involved with him in the game. I feel like we're at the very early outset of that type of a relationship. And so I'm really interested to kind of see where they're going, especially because in the beginning, they're very much against one another. And a little bit later, John goes to try to find some information, and he has to, in order to do this, he realizes that he is only going to be as good as he can be without the like emotion suppressing palette. So there's a brief conversation. We do stop back with Kwan for a minute. We find out that she's ultimately going to try to run away or whatever else. It's not a very important interaction, and truthfully, it just serves to sort of break up the scenes between John's scene A and John's scene B. The A plot is definitely the dominant plot in this episode that I care the most about. There's something else going. It's Soren and Kwan, and you're like, whatever. The Soren and Kwan storyline literally ends with them on their way back to Madrigal for whatever reason. She promises untold money and deuterium or something to him, and he's like going to take advantage of that, whatever. Again, not the most important storyline. Master Chief is the storyline for this episode. And so he's searching for a planet, and Cortana suddenly shows up as a voice in his head. Crystal clear, because it would be, because we're in his head too. And so, and she's like, I can help you with the search parameters if you just let me. And so finally he stops fighting her, and she does help him track down more or less like 23 different possible planets that are based around what he's describing. And so, and he comes to realize more and more that he believes there's more that he can glean from this artifact, but he's worried that the pallet, the little thing in his back that's making him unemotional, combat ready, is blocking him from being able to fully realize whatever he needs to realize. And so we cut to him in the bathroom, and he's naked, and Cortana's like, what are you doing? What's going on? What are you doing, Master Chief? And she reports back to Halsey, he's trying to cut out his suppression palette, emotion suppression palette. And she's like, Halsey goes, let him do it. See, Halsey's not dumb. As scientists go, she's actually kind of brilliant. And she realizes that whatever's happening, she may not fully understand it, and John doesn't either, but he's trying to figure it out. And he's been built to be the perfect soldier, the perfect leader, the perfect Master Chief. And so so she's like, help him. I want him to see you as an accomplice, not as a spy. And so she basically shows up and she says, here, let me help you. Go down so long, this incision, this and that, and he pops it out. Okay? Thing finally comes out clean, and he looks at it, and sure enough, it's this thing. So then we cut to a little bit further later down, and he's in normal civvies. So not only have we lost the helmet, we've lost the outfit, but now we got homeboy in just regular civilian clothes. What's happening here? What? I feel like going, the Mandalorian would never let this much out of his outfit happen. We want his Master Chief in the helmet with the gold and the thing and the... Anyway, whatever. The story, though, is actually really good. So he decides to go for a walk. He doesn't have his palette suppressor in, and he's suddenly seeing the world differently. He's in awe of visions of spaceships with planets, stuff that's super picturesque that would make us just like catch our breath in our throats, is having that effect on him for the first time ever. He follows people and he hears things, and eventually he finds himself on a train, and he's just kind of, and Cortana's like, I can help you find what you're looking for if you let me. And ultimately he's just ignoring her because he just wants to experience everything. He sees a couple kissing and it makes him feel uncomfortable, but he then follows music, and it takes him to this violin player and cello player who are doing this, or I'm sorry, these two, I think it's two twin cellos, futuristic looking cellos, which are playing in a park, and there's a kid with a ball, and he sees somebody with a dog, and it's input everywhere, and Cortana's literally like, is this why you pulled out your palette so that you can ultimately hear the music differently? What's going on? And she's trying to figure it out too, because she's an AI also. So she's been dumped into the middle of a scenario she wasn't programmed for, and is now also, she's essentially going to be going through the same emotional journey John is. It's actually really brilliant, because now they're going to be simpatico. And what I mean by that is, yes, she's got orders that are going on, but at the end of the day, she's peeping what's going on, man. She's definitely down. And I love, so she's going to learn the same stuff as he's learning how to emote, she's going to learn what it means for humans to emote and how to respond and react to that. Ultimately, they're going to become a better partnership because of everything going on right now. So at the end of the day, he finally tries to get where he's going. He's trying to get to the artifact room, and Cortana's like, what are you doing? And he's like, open this door. Halsey's watching, and Halsey tells her, open the door for him. He opens the door, he goes in, and Cortana's really worried because his physiology is showing that when he's attached to the artifact, his high blood pressure goes up, his heart rate goes up, everything. It's very dangerous. John begins to see everything more clearly. He remembers things much more clearly. Ultimately, he comes out of the thing and he's drawing, and he's like, there is another like this that looks like this, and ours would fit inside the one that I saw. And so Cortana helps him figure out which planet it is, based on the fact that the planet he was on had rings, and they find out that there was early settlers. There are 3 out of all the planets, the 3 that match this, and ultimately one where he's from. They track it down, and you see him. He's in his armor now, and he's looking around a big screen room, and you find out that there was some sort of an outbreak, and that these 3 planets are quarantined. The one that he wants is quarantined. And ultimately, he's like, well, I gotta go. And he goes to Halsey, and Halsey's like, what's happening? She pretends she doesn't know anything going on, and he's like, I have to go, because if I can find this thing, and she's like, well, then I'm coming with you. So finally we get to see him in his armor again, though still no helmet, you dork. But at the end of the day, it's very much a trip of... I'm interested to see what happens. I think it's interesting because in the games, Halsey's not around as much as she is in the series, and that's okay. So then we cut back to Makee on the Earth UNSC ship, the Gladius, and she's kind of trying to take control of some aspects of where they're going and whatnot. And then we cut to so she's ultimately setting the course where they're going to end up heading. Then we cut back to UNSC, and you get to see Keyes, both General and Doctor, who are. And her father basically says to her, hey, Halsey's going on a trip. While she's gone, make the most of your time, as in like with the artifact. So yeah. And then the ship takes off, and you get to see Master Chief, and right beside him is Cortana, and Cortana's not happy. Something's going down. So there you go. Now you know. If knowing's half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. Hey man, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I did. Do me a favor, we're at episode 3. Let me know in the comment section below if you want me to keep reviewing this show. I would rather put all my effort into things that are going to not only grow the channel, but be entertaining to you guys, my audience. I mean, right now, there's 160 of you, and I want you to know I appreciate each and every one of you, and I want to make this the most engaging show I can. I enjoy doing stuff like this. I also enjoy doing some video essays and whatnot, so by all means, you guys let me know one way or another in the comment section if you want me to continue doing this. So, hey man, hit the like button, subscribe. Remember, the like button tells more people about stuff. It's how the YouTube algorithm works. So when you like something, YouTube says, oh, if all these people like it, then maybe all these people might like it, and it passes it on to them. So again, likes are very important. But again, subscribe, man. Join the Know-It-All Nation. I'm all about it. We have a Discord now. We're all over the place. As more people grow into the Discord, it'll become more interactive. And by all means, I try to post as much as I can in there as well, everything that you're seeing here. So again, I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing in terms of supporting the channel. I can't wait to talk to you again next week. Don't forget, everyone loves a know-it.